Lyle Fitterer. Munis have generally been flat this year when you look at the funds. With the growing economy, should we expect better performance, or is it all priced in?
I don't know that it's all priced in. I think there are some areas of opportunity. I think the biggest driver of muni performance is going to be the performance of treasuries. If you look at the treasury market year to date, it hasn't done a whole lot. So you got a little bit of income, a little bit of price depreciation in the marketplace. Longer term, it looks pretty attractive on a relative value basis. So we're looking for slightly positive returns by the end of the year.
Are Puerto Rico and Chicago weighing on the muni market?
They definitely are weighing on the muni market. I think Chicago and New Jersey and probably more than Puerto Rico. I think a lot of people have had a chance to sell Puerto Rico. I think most people keep thinking it's cheap and they're buying it and it gets cheaper. We think it's kind of too hard to analyze. So the answer, I guess, in summary is yes, they are, but I think that the market has looked beyond at least Puerto Rico. I think Chicago is actually probably a bigger issue, Illinois, New Jersey, and even places like Pennsylvania and maybe Kentucky, where there are other pension issues that people haven't talked about.
Well, how do you avoid the landmines? Do you just look out for cities or municipalities with pension problems and a small taxpayer base? Is that how you do it?
Well, it's not as simple as that. We have 17 credit analysts on our team. We are not going to just simply run from a credit because it has a pension issue. I think Chicago is a great example. We own a lot of Chicago debt. We own a lot of Illinois debt. And I think we look beyond and say, what's going on from a broader economic perspective? Are you getting paid to take the credit risk that you're actually assuming with those credits? And is there a way to basically solve their pension issue from a long-term perspective? So if you look at the pension issue, it's not necessarily a cash flow issue today, but it could become a cash flow issue down the road, and that's what you need to pay attention to.
So using Chicago as an example, what's attractive about Chicago that keeps you in those bonds despite the pension crisis?
I think a few things. I think you need to differentiate Chicago from a Detroit or a Puerto Rico, and you look at the economic backdrop. So if you look at Chicago, the economy is actually growing. It's a microcosm of the U.S. So it's growing 2% plus or minus per year. Population has shifted. It's actually growing again. They're starting to become a technology center for the Midwest. Commercial real estate has gone up substantially within the city. And to top that off, if you look at the surrounding area, so the outlying cities and counties around Chicago, Chicago's actually got a fairly low property tax relative to those other areas. So we think they have the ability to raise revenues and they have the economic backdrop to support the debt that they have. The problem they have is obviously the pension issue, and now it looks like they're going to have to turn back to the state and see some resolution at the state level to help them, I think, from a long-term perspective on the pension. And
finally, with regard to issuance, which is another big factor in muni pricing, as well as insurance, we're seeing the rise of muni bond insurance again. Can you tell me what's going on in that score and what you expect for the second half of 2015?
Yeah, issuance has been up substantially, but most of it's been refunding. So net new issuance really hasn't changed a whole lot this year. And again, if you look just at the numbers, 10 years ago, you look at the amount of debt that was issued, it was fairly high. So they're coming up on those call dates with interest rates very low, and earlier in the year even much lower. You saw a lot of refunding volume. We think that will slow down primarily because rates are a little bit higher today than where they were in January. But again, you tend to get a slowdown in the summer, then in the fall it picks up again. So issuance will pick up. We're probably set for probably 350, 360 billion. I think some people were calling for as high as 380, 390 for the year. So a pretty good 10% pickup for the year. In terms of insurance, kind of ebbs and flows. I think the problem with the insurers right now is the uncertainty surrounding Puerto Rico and what is the value of that insurance. So for institutional investors, they won't pay a lot for that. For retail investors, I think you'll still get some of them that are interested. So, issuance probably stays where it is. I think right now, from a insured perspective, I think it's roughly 10% of the market, plus or minus.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for coming on and talking about it.
Thanks for having me, Greg.
Thank you for watching The Street.